Hi and welcome to It's Very Zen. I am back with a new deck today. It is Radleigh Valentine's Guardian Angel Messages Tarot. Now, I don't want to do a full review walkthrough. There's plenty of images you can look at online. But as I was looking through this deck, I noticed there was a few things that really stood out that may either make or break a deck for people considering it. So I thought I'd just focus on these few things and have a chat about what I noticed. Being Hay House, it's your standard, really great, sturdy box. Love it. And I don't know if this is a Hay House thing so much as it's a Radleigh Valentine thing, but the guidebook is just amazing. I just love big meaty guidebooks to get into. One thing I did notice while I was flicking through the book, normally a creator, an artist, a publisher will discuss why they chose different interpretations, different meanings. I didn't notice that in this book. I'm thinking, however, that people who are familiar with Radleigh Valentine and the work he did with Doreen Virtue are probably aware of how they and he going forward interprets certain things. So he probably thought it wasn't worth mentioning again. I'm not sure. Anyhow, let's start with the major arcana and some of the things that I noticed that were different. Now, for people, again, familiar with Radleigh and Doreen's work, this won't be as a surprise, but if you're not familiar with their work, this could be a bit of a something you need to consider. So first of all, we have the Fool re-imaged as the Dreamer. Now, nothing against the imagery. I think it's quite beautiful. It's pretty normal for Radleigh and Doreen in the past to have a few keywords. That's fine, neither here nor there. The Dreamer, my first thought was, well, this is typical for him, but why the Dreamer? And then I thought, well, new beginnings, new opportunities, everything's in front of you, and whatever you can dream, you can do it. So I thought, well, that's a bit of an interesting layer to add to this card. Secondly, instead of the Hierophant, we have the Wise Counselor. And while I'm not opposed to old school interpretation, I've spoken enough about my thoughts on Rider-Waite and diversity in tarot. But Wise Counselor, again, I think that's in itself a keyword that would add another layer, because the Hierophant, when I think about it, Wise Counselor, someone more learned that we go to for advice as a mentor, I think that's really quite clever. Now, I'm mentioning this because the rewordings may throw people. I think it's either a love or hate, this style of interpretation that he does, and I don't believe there's any grey area. I'm fine with it. I roll every now and again. Like this one was a bit of an eye roll. We have Awakening instead of the Hanged Man. And when I think of the Hanged Man, awakening, unless it's an awakening to a different perspective, a different way of looking at things. I don't know, this one, although I know these cards I'm showing you are ones that are typically renamed. One day I'm going to go through all my Radleigh and Doreen tarot decks and see if they've actually renamed them the same. But yep, for now, and we have Awakening instead of the Hanged Man. For Death, we have Release, and in typical Radleigh fashion, there is nothing hugely grim or macabre about it. There's no skulls, no dead-looking horses. I think for Release, the use of a phoenix and rebirth was interesting. To me, Death, we need to let go of situations before we can move on, and we need to release them. So I'll pay that one. And the Phoenix, well, rising from the ashes, I'm not really sure what to think of that. If anyone has any thoughts on that, I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts. Another quick thing I'd mention is all the images here. You'll notice that they're all angels. And unlike other angel theme decks, they're not based on any particular angel like Metatron, Uriel, Gabriel. They're just angelic looking creatures that could be anybody's guardian angels. And who are we to say what's out there with angels? Balance in place of temperance, I'm not minding. I think they've kept the imagery of, pouring the liquid. And balance and moderation, to me, is at the core of this card. So, again, it's another layer as opposed to a complete rework for me. Now, ego for the devil, I'm sure, has been used before. Again, it's something that you would have to think about in context with a layout to work out if the ego is at play here. I think the imagery of the bird in the gilded cage, who is in there despite the door being wide open, is very apt for this card. The sense of false imprisonment really speaks to me in this picture. The Tower is transformation. And again, I can see with this card where he come up with the idea of calling it transformation, because in a more extreme sense than death, some things just need to be completely pulled apart before you can start again and transform the situation. Interesting that I'm noting here that even though there's thunderclouds and lightning bolts, the tower is still intact. It's like he's taken it moments before the lightning strikes and destroys the tower. And I'm wondering if the hourglass there has anything to do with that split-second timing before the lightning hits. Interesting. I think there's a lot of imagery here that, as I work more with this deck, I'd like to delve into. The final renaming of the major arcana is renewal. No, sorry. Yeah, no, I had it right. Renewal instead of a judgment. Again, this is one that doesn't necessarily speak to me. I don't see renewal in judgment. It's not the first thing I think of. Again, this is one I'd like your thoughts on, with the naming combined with the traditional meaning. Right, let's get on to the minors. Now, this is, for a new reader, this is not going to be an ideal deck to start with, because the renaming of the minor arcana as elements instead of the traditional suits, you're going to have to think, you're going to have to know your deck to be able to get your head around how Wands is fire. And in some of their decks, it's actually renamed as seasons, and that's an even harder stretch sometimes. But as always, I do like to look at the aces, and yeah, I quite like it. And it is a picture deck, it's not a pip deck. Another thing I noticed here is with the minors, the people front and centre here are not so much angels, but there's angelic imagery around it. And throughout the minors, and I might go through the whole deck because I don't want to get hung up on this point, there's a lot of diversity in gender and race. So if you're not too fussed with getting your mind around the suits being renamed as elements, and you're looking for diversity along with something a little less, I want to say strict and old school in its imagery, it could be worth a look. The cups is water, and again, as you can see, the angels are like part of the background, not so much the main characters here. And I quite like this, the Five of Cups here with it crying over spilt milk. I thought that was good. Swords is air. And I see here that they've made it quite wintry, which is interesting because in other decks where they've renamed the minor arcana suits as seasons, the swords is winter. So yeah, it makes his work and the work he did with Doreen very cohesive without being exactly the same thing, just a different cover on the box and a different back to the card, which, by the way, for people who do reversals, this is reversible. So for those of you who really, find that important, there you go. Pentacles here is earth. And I'm noticing here too that it's quite autumny with the leaves and that, which in other decks, the Pentacles has been renamed as autumn. So yeah, I'm definitely seeing a theme here. And it's interesting that he's kept some of the traditional imagery alongside with, just a more gentle modern interpretation. And another thing I just want to quickly point out, if you notice, the borders on all of these is a different colour. So yeah, colour-coded. Don't know if that makes a difference to you. It was something that was different, so I thought I'd mention it. All right, that is it. As I said, I just really wanted to discuss things that really stood out to me, and I thought, could sway people either way, help people make an informed decision about the deck. If you have it and you've liked it and enjoyed it and had any opinions, please comment. And If you don't like what you've seen, let me know, and let me know why. Open to discussion. All right, take it easy, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.